God knit us in our mother's womb. Mm-hmm. That means he knew our personality. He had a plan for our life. He personally put us together while we were forming inside our mother's bodies. And to me, I'm going to say it's demonic to want to not help a baby that's born stay alive. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Pastor and Wife podcast.
We welcome you to hang out with us today.
I'm Hansel.
I'm Natalie.
All right, today we're going to talk about the 2024 general election.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it's so hard. It seems like every 4 years it gets like harder and harder to vote, and it seems like more and more important, and we're finding so much more corruption, and people who we vote for turn out to be different than what we thought. And I just think people don't know who to trust anymore, you know, where people really stand on issues.
Absolutely. So we're not going to try to judge the two candidates based on what they look like, their mannerisms, if they're rude or nice. We're going to look at their policies and if they align with the Bible. So I got this Christians Voters Guide right here, and we're going to look at the 7 most popular or the 7 most concerning policies that Christians are thinking about today. All right, let's get to it. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is inflation. So the Republicans, represented by Donald Trump, says cut government regulations and spending to bring down the cost of goods for citizens. So the Republicans agree, and the Democrats, represented by Kamala Harris, disagree. What do you think about that?
This one I never really understood that well. Like, why would you not want to bring down prices? Like, what is the Democrat position on how that's going to happen?
I believe the Democrats want to give people free money again. They want to give people money.
Oh, so they just want to give people money so that they have more money? So
right.
That they don't really feel the inflation that much?
Yeah, like vouchers, or, you know, I know Donald Trump did something similar when he was in office, giving tax breaks to people with children. Mm-hmm. So they want to give higher tax breaks. That I'm not against, because it's a tax break. You know, it comes out of the taxes you're already paying. But they want to do more social programs, because that's their modus operandi, is to put taxpayer money into social programs. So the Bible doesn't really talk about this that much. But what it does talk about is, unfair weights and measures. So what people don't think about in this situation is, if you keep throwing money at something, it doesn't solve the problem. For me, I think Donald Trump and the Republicans are more biblical in this sense, to where if you cut government regulations on businesses, then they're allowed to flourish. So that means more jobs, more revenue. And when businesses thrive, there's more products and services that people can buy. And when you have more jobs, you have more buying power. So it's a better economy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I would agree.
Because I have a biblical wife.
I might be more conservative than you, possibly.
Maybe. So that one's, I mean, for us, I think we don't have any disagreement there.
Yeah.
I think the Bible, again, it doesn't talk about it specifically, but to me, it's more fair. If the Bible talks about equal weights and measures, it's more fair for people to earn more, to keep more of what they earn, instead of going to the government.
Enabling people to, to keep more of what they earn.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, because if what this is saying is, the government has to regulate what you spend and what you do with your money, so no, I think more freedom is better in this situation. Okay, so that wasn't too controversial. The next one is immigration, open border policy. So Kamala Harris and the Democrats says here they agree with funding sanctuary cities, helping illegal immigrants avoid deportation, decriminalize illegal border crossings, provide amnesty, release illegal immigrants into communities, which dovetails to non-citizens having benefits and the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Is that biblical or not? Because the Republicans, they disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could go back to the time of, Ellis Island and, people wanting to come to America for opportunity and wanting to contribute to make their contribution, and also wanting to benefit from our free, society.
Yeah, yeah.
And because a lot of those people came from, communism and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But we're just not there right now.
Okay. The pushback that I get from that is, well, but the Bible in Leviticus talks about being kind to the foreigner who's passing through your lands. Mm-hmm. And that means Christians should vote for open borders. That's what they say to me. Mm-hmm. My pushback to that is people didn't understand the culture. When, the Bible talks about people in those times, specifically they were talking about the nation of Israel. They were talking about if a foreigner who has a different religion, right? You can't forget that, is passing through, you can't treat them harshly. You have to help them. But the words like passing through. And if they reside in your lands, then they would have to obey the Jewish law, the Hebrew law,
right?
The Old Testament.
I think that's what people don't understand really, is that they were still required to live according to Jewish law.
Yeah.
If you live in our land, because back then and even now, so whatever land you have within your borders that you fought for, then that's your rule, and everyone has to follow your rules. So that was definitely required, and that would be kind of a different argument than what's going on today.
Yeah, it would be. And then at the same time, funding sanctuary cities, decriminalize border crossings, and then giving them benefits from our taxpayer money to eventually give them the right to vote, I think is highly unbiblical, because it is biblical to follow the laws of the land, as we were talking about. And so by the time they come in here, with the current laws, that means they're criminals. And they're able to be deported because they've broken the law and they're not a U.S. citizen. And so I believe this is highly unbiblical. I believe in Romans, it talks about how God places people in their lands. It talks about borders and how God sets the borders and the people that live in the nations within it. And so I don't want to be empowering lawlessness. Jesus said himself, "Away from me, you lawless." Not everyone will say, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven. And then he says, "Away from me, I never knew you, you transgressors of the law." That was the thing. And I don't want to make people into transgressors of the law. Now, if the Democrats had their way, then it would be legal for this. Would that still be wrong?
Oh, if you just make it legal?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's a hard issue because, when you're talking about giving people benefits for our country and the right to vote and make decisions about what goes on here, I don't know. Who are we allowing into the country, and what's the line, the decision, like? What's the deciding process? Like, are they good citizens, people who are going to be good citizens, who will contribute to our society, and who are down on their luck in their country and they want to be here and become Americans? Or are they coming over to, I don't know, sell more drugs and, all that stuff?
Yeah, that's
So
a hard question because we don't know. At the moment, the current administration, which is Joe Biden and the Democrats, and Kamala Harris is the VP still, by the way, they don't vet. They just let anyone in.
So what would the kind of normal? I mean, what are the what's the procedure for becoming a legal, citizen of the United States of America? How do they decide that?
Right now, they don't. You just go in. Before you would have to have a reason to be here, work, and they used to have processes where they determine how much value you have to the society based on education, work experience, and things like that. I don't know if those are still on the books. I suspect they're still on the books. They just don't enforce them. So that we're already breaking our own laws at the moment. And by
Right.
doing this, regardless if it becomes legal or not, I believe it's still wrong. It's still against biblical principles of fairness and equality. If we're talking about, again, equal weights and measures, you can, in my opinion, you can apply that to people. And so they say, well, Pastor, you're quantifying people into what they're worth by their education and work experience and this and that. I am, because I'm not doing it because I'm unkind. I'm doing it because I'm kind. We see a lot of migrants right now in major cities forming gangs, and they're robbing people, and they're causing violence and crime. And so if the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, love your neighbor as yourself. So one, if I love God, Jesus said, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments, right? And they didn't have the New Testament yet, so he's talking about the moral code in the Old Testament. And we talked about the whole issue with the foreigner. Be kind to them, but they still have to follow the rules of the land. They're not doing that. They're causing crime.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, loving your neighbor as yourself. That's another argument they have against conservatives that say you're not loving your neighbor from the South or from another country by not letting them in. This is not doing that. This is empowering them or enabling them to not love their neighbor. Because crime is not loving your neighbor. And what we're doing is we're giving them EBT cards. We're giving them credit cards with thousands of dollars on there that they didn't work for. And so that only incentivizes bad behavior. I mean, look at Colorado, look at New York, all these things. And I mean, we live in California, LA, same thing. I just think it's a terrible thing. Now, if they want to come over legally, if they're really doctors, if they're really architects, scientists, and
Dentists.
teachers, dentists, I don't know, like something that we need, absolutely come on over because you'll be a good citizen. You can't just tell me you're a Christian because everybody says that. And I don't know if you're really a Christian or not.
Come over because they're Christians? Oh, I'm a Christian, so you should let me in your country? Is that for real?
I've heard that before. And, most American Christians, I don't think are living up to being a Christian. So that doesn't count to me. But what do you think? That's my argument.
Yeah, again, I would agree. I don't think we're going to disagree about stuff like this.
Okay.
I mean, but you have personal firsthand experience
Yes.
of coming to this country legally
Yeah.
and being petitioned and
Right.
going through the whole long process.
Yeah. I don't remember it too well, but I became a legal, naturalized U.S. citizen at the age of 7. And I had to memorize the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, not Democrat,
Democracy.
democracy, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
God.
not under a president, not under a Congress, not under a Senate, but one nation under
Yeah.
God, indivisible,
Indivisible.
with liberty and justice for all. And this is my issue. If they have the right to vote and they have no stake in the country, they have not pledged allegiance to better the United States of America, they fly their foreign flag over the American flag, then that means I am dividing the country. I'm dividing the nation. I'm dividing communities. And that's not loving your neighbor. That's not loving your country. So to me, it's a slam dunk on the Republican side.
Yeah, and it's like whoever comes over and you give them free money and you give them benefits and you absolve them of all criminal history, and you're like, come on in. Of course they're going to vote for you.
Yeah.
If the Republicans did that, then they would vote for Republicans. Like,
Exactly.
like, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. So
Yeah, there you go. All right. So again, we are believing that the Republican side on the policy of immigration and the right to vote is in the more biblical side than the Democrats. All right. So the next one, so that's number 2. Number 3 is government control, vaccines and electric vehicles. Mandate, I can't say that. The COOF mandates, so mandate the COOF vaccine. Phase out gas vehicles to force transition to electric within 10 years.
why are these together? Vaccines and electric vehicles.
It's like a government control issue.
Government control. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So for me, I believe that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. Mm-hmm. And that's biblical.
Yeah.
And that flies in the face of this. You guys that know us, it's no surprise that we didn't like the mandates. We like freedom. If you want to take a vaccine, take a vaccine. Mm-hmm. But do your research. If you don't want to take a vaccine, don't take the vaccine. But do your research, right? And so this one, for me, especially the health one, I don't think the government has any say what you do with your health. In fact, the Nuremberg Code says you can't do that. They executed people that forced people to do medical procedures. They executed people, the Nazis, that forced people to do medical procedures apart from their will.
Right.
So I'm not saying go that far, but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
we can't have that. We can't have the government control over our own bodies, especially when our bodies, the Bible says, is the temple of the Holy Spirit. You were bought with a price. So our bodies don't belong, not even to us. It belongs to God, not the government. What do you think?
Agree.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, personal story. Like I was taking my kids to the doctor, and it's a pediatrician that I just loved, and she remembered us even from a year before, and she asked about us, and she took her time. But this medical center that she works for, it's like a teaching hospital, and they were requiring their patients to be up to date on all of their vaccinations. And I just asked her about it, and she was like, "Oh, well, what about the bacterial ones?" Because I'm like, my kids are gonna get these diseases. Why do I have to vaccinate them for them? And she said, "What about the bacterial ones?" And I was thinking, well, they're probably more likely to get it when I come here than when we're just out and about. But yeah, and it was sad because I really liked her, but I haven't been back there because I don't want to press my luck. I don't want to be forced for my children to be
Yes.
forced to take vaccines. And people who have cancer, they have to they give them all the vaccines for all these other things that they don't have, and when their immune systems are weak. And I don't know, take them if you want to, and that's great. But yeah, I don't know why medical facilities are requiring that people be up to date and take all the vaccines in order to be treated. I mean, that's illegal.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think,
Absolutely.
I think if maybe you would push it, they would back down, but they use a lot of intimidation.
Yeah.
And it's like they're supposed to be experts in the field, and you're supposed to be able to trust them with your health, and it's like you can't do that anymore. And it's sad.
That is very sad. And so the Democratic Party wants to push these things. The gas vehicle thing is the same thing to me. Their argument is, it's for the environment. We're going to die soon, so we got to change right away. There's not a scientific consensus on that. There's a lot of dissonance in the scientific community that would disagree with them. So I don't think you should make a law if there's still disagreement on that scientifically. In fact, if you got rid of all gas vehicles right now, and then just replace them magically with electric vehicles, the grid in California, I don't know where about anywhere else, but the grid in California cannot handle the load, and we cannot drive around. And then people will lose their jobs, especially lower income people will lose their jobs. And now you're not loving your neighbor because you made them lose their job because you gave them an electric car instead of a gas car.
Well, and what about the resources that it takes to build and to dispose of all these batteries and electric
Yeah, and
cars?
they're toxic. So, to make them requires slave labor from Africa. And, yeah, you don't want that. You don't want slavery as a Christian. You don't want to support that. And at the same time, to get rid of an electric car, it's considered, toxic, the batteries. So there's a lot of environmental impact on that. Not to mention, if we were up to ramp up our electric production, we would need more coal power plants. The wind farms and the solar aren't enough. The technology is not there. It's not efficient enough for us to produce the amount of electricity that's needed. So it's a lose-lose proposition for me. And if we're talking about biblically, it looks like government control over your body and over your transportation, or energy use is not loving your neighbor.
No.
Yeah. Scary. So the Democrats want that and the Republicans don't. So
Okay.
I guess we're on the Republican side once again.
Okay.
All right. Wow. Amazing. Here we go. Okay, so the next one, I think 1, 2, 3, number 4. Number 4 is the babies born alive require medical care. So if they're born alive, they require medical care. Babies born alive after surviving a failed abortion attempt have the right to life-saving medical care, and that dovetails into another proposition, another policy of late-term abortion and taxpayer-funded abortion. So one is the Republicans want babies born alive to have medical care, and then the Democrats want to subsidize late-term abortion with taxpayer funds. Oh, and regular abortion too, with taxpayer funds.
Right.
So as a Christian and as a mom, what do you think about that?
I just think there's an obvious disconnect as to the baby inside the womb. Is that a life or not? Because, we're talking about saving lives. We're talking to a dear friend who, has disagreements with us about this recently. And, I understand, like, we need to be concerned about women's health.
Yes.
And I'm a mother. I would like to be cared about,
Yes.
So, yes. And, but I also think that in the womb is a life, too. Whether it's male or female, should get the same amount of care and attention that I would.
Right.
That's what I would want for my child in utero.
Yes, I agree.
So for me, that's the issue, and it's a clear issue. Abortion is taking of that life within the womb, and that life is just as important and valuable as mine.
I agree, because the Bible says that God knit us in our mother's womb. That means he knew our personality. He had a plan for our life. He personally put us together while we were forming inside our mother's bodies. And to me, I'm going to say it's demonic to want to not help a baby that's born stay alive.
It's against the code of ethics for doctors, in my opinion.
It is. It is. Do no harm, right?
Yeah.
So even if you think a baby inside the womb is not a person, once it's born, you have no argument.
Well, what about the argument that it still needs to depend on others for life, for everything?
Well, we have a 2-year-old. That's my argument. If I left
he can't
him
just
alone,
live on his own either.
I mean, our 2-year-old's pretty hardy. He's pretty tough. He might be able to survive a couple of days, maybe a
Yeah.
week. He'll find water somewhere. But other than that, he can't really defend himself if someone wanted to hurt him or if he needed food. I mean,
And I mean, the
yeah,
elderly, are they worthless because they may not be able to care for themselves?
right. So they're not
Either.
human, according to the Democrats right here. They're not human. You could kill them, right? The actual word is murder. I'm I have to speak on this with strong language because I think this is the apex or the fulcrum of the Christian ethic. You know what I mean? It's so important to Christians not to remove someone from the earth without righteous cause. And a baby has not done anything to merit the death penalty. You know, I just don't understand. If you're a Christian and you're a Democrat, I get it that you want to help like immigrants and you want to help the poor.
Yeah.
Me too. As a Christian, I do too. We might have different methods, but this one, it just boggles my mind why you would even want to vote for this. Yeah, yeah, you have no words to say because this is pretty cut and dry for a Christian. If I were on the Democrat side, and I'm going to speak very candidly, I would switch to Republican if this was on the table, because all the other issues to me are in second place compared to killing a child.
What about the mother isn't able to care for the child, or the child was, conceived illegitimately, like through, crimes against the woman, and what then? I mean, if she has to have the
Okay.
baby.
I'm going to sound mean right now, but I think it's the right thing to do is to have and deliver the baby. I know several people who were a product of crimes against women. And for me to look at them and say, you're less of a human than I am because of the circumstance in which you came into existence, that would be just a travesty. I couldn't do that to a person, you know. Now, there are many organizations out there that help mothers find, people to adopt their children. That's the Christian. Christians are historically known for doing that. In the Roman Empire,
true.
the early church, the Romans thought Christians were weird because the Romans had their own abortion where they would throw their babies into the trash dump waiting for wild dogs to eat them.
Yeah.
And those weird Christians would go there in the middle of the night and grab the babies in the middle of the night and bring them home and raise them as their own children. I think from history and from the Bible, this is really clear cut.
What do you think about how difficult it is to adopt a child? Do you think it should be?
I think it should be easier. I think there should be less regulations. Now, I get why there's regulations. You don't want
Yeah.
bad people,
Yeah.
to adopt children, like people that commit crimes against children. You don't want them to adopt children.
Yeah.
So I want to keep that in place, but refine it to where, the good household. You don't have to be a Christian if you're a good parent, if you're a good couple. I believe that it should be easier for you to adopt children. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because God wills it. God loves babies.
Yeah.
Babies are not parasites, okay?
Yeah.
Feminists, babies are humans. So the next one is the transgender agenda. It says,
It used to be called the gay agenda.
yeah, but now
That's
it's transgender.
Mm-hmm.
So the Democrats want to allow males identifying as females in female sports, black college. Oh no, include sexual ideology in grade schools. Citizens should pay for sex change for prisoners. And this one's a funny one to me. Not the agenda. The agenda I don't think is biblical at all. But I remember on X they had a man on the street interview of Democrats, saying that the official policy of the Kamala Harris team is for taxpayers to fund the sex changes for prisoners, and they were just like, "No, it's not. No, it's not." Like they couldn't
I've
believe
never
it.
heard of that.
Yeah, it's
Like
insane.
I didn't know that either.
It's insane. They couldn't believe it either. I mean, to me, this one's another one. It's clear cut. It's second to the not killing babies issue. This one totally disregards Genesis, where it talks about God says that you are created in His image, male and female. Right? There was only two genders in the Bible, and you were created in your mother's womb. He knit you there. He formed you, and so He made you for a purpose. And I believe your gender and sex was created by God intentionally.
Yes.
Okay. So the Republicans disagree that this is a good thing. And so what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you there either. I mean, there's I just always try to look at what other people are saying, what's the other side of the issue, and that's the compassionate thing is because people are suffering mentally. The compassionate thing would be to let them, have these operations, and we should educate children about that stuff if they feel that way in the public school system. So what would you say to those arguments?
I would say they're bad arguments, because what I've seen is the transgender agenda in schools produces bad material. I can't say it on YouTube, but basically, books and learning, material that's just not appropriate for kids.
For children.
Check my ex if you want to know more. But it's, I wouldn't let adults read these things as a Christian. Some of my friends and I would go to school board meetings and read from these books, and the school board would say that's inappropriate material for this meeting. And I'm flabbergasted, because why would that be appropriate for a sixth grader?
Yeah. I think the issue is with that is that we're like sexualizing children, and it's not really about gender anymore, male and female, but it's about sexual orientation, right?
Yes.
I mean, or are they separate issues to some people?
They're separate issues to the left, but I think that's wrong. Like, your identity is not your sexual preference.
Sexual preference, right? Yeah.
Your identity as a Christian is who God created you to be. I don't prance around saying, "Look at my heterosexual self." That's not what it's about. It's about, who did God create you to be? What plans does He have for your life? And if you read the Bible, there are no plans for anyone in the Bible to change their gender.
Yeah, I mean, really loving, marriage and family, like therapy and stuff like that, and counseling. If I had another chance to do another career, and maybe I will someday, then
Yes.
I really think that I would go into this, because I do care about people's mental health and their identity, but I believe our identity goes back to God, our Creator, and how He created us. And if there's an issue, I believe that the Lord can heal that. I believe it is a mental issue, and that the Lord has healing for that, and that we can be happy and fulfilled and joyful in our own gender. If you're not, I believe that you can be.
Yes.
And yeah, I have a big heart for that. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
compassion for you if you feel that way, because yeah, I believe that no one wants people to feel dissatisfied with who they are, because I believe God has a purpose for you,
Yes.
for everyone. So,
Amen. That's right.
and who He created you to be biologically. That's what I believe.
Yeah. I agree. Now, if a transgender person wanted to come to our church, would that be okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a great place to be.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it might be hard at first, but I think our people are kind and they love everyone, and but they still speak the truth. So you'll be confronted with God's truth if you're transgender and you come to our church, but you won't receive a lack of kindness.
Yeah, I don't think any reform ever comes from behavior modification or anything like that. I think it comes from the truth spoken in love.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, what do you think? So, are the Republicans right to disagree with this policy?
I believe so.
All right. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 for 5 on the Republican side. Now, don't get me wrong. You rhinos, I think, are evil. Not every Republican is good, and not every Democrat is bad.
Yes.
But for this election, it looks like we're leaning towards one side over the other. But again, we're not supposed to endorse a candidate. We are just going through the policies of each party as a Christian. All right. So the next one, I don't know how big this is for Christian women, but it should be big, is the Democrats' idea of gun confiscation.
Okay.
So the Democrats say they want government to take guns from law-abiding citizens via bans or mandatory buybacks. So Kamala Harris was famous for, saying that she wants mandatory buybacks.
But she also said that she owns firearms and she doesn't want to take away our guns, right?
Yeah, during the debate, even on Oprah, she goes, "Oh, I have a gun," and Oprah's like, "I did not know that," like. and she even said, "If you come into my house and try to rob me,
Right.
I will shoot you." She said that.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's her personal issue, but their official political stance is to get rid of assault weapons. Now, this is where I think the confusion is. According to the Democrats, an assault weapon is any semi-automatic weapon. That means handguns that can fire multiple shots without needing to charge it, right? So basically all handguns except for revolvers are going to be banned. And then rifles that have a magazine, meaning, they're not bolt action. So when you
Right.
fire on a bolt action, you have to chamber another round manually with
Anything
your hand.
except for like shotgun or something.
Yeah. Shotguns, semi-automatic shotguns exist, so those will be gone.
Okay.
So you'll have bolt action rifles, revolvers, and regular shotguns. So that brings us back to like the 1700s.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So as a Christian, I do know in Exodus there is an allowance for self-defense. In the law, it talks about how if someone breaks into your house at night and you ended up killing him, then there's no blood on your hands. So there is precedent for self-defense, even at that level. For me, this is about, again, freedom, because as of right now, it's legal to own a semi-automatic gun, firearm. And if you weren't breaking the law, if you didn't hurt, maim, or murder someone with your firearm, then why should it be taken away?
What about all the other people who could and
Who
who
could?
have,
So
like school?
like red
shootings
flag
and
laws, they're pushing that as well. What that means is if someone thinks you're a danger to society, they can take your guns. But the issue is by what standard? By what standard? Right. Like, is there a standard in the American Psychological Society that says if you pass this threshold, then you're a danger to society if you own a firearm. There isn't.
There isn't, right?
So I don't think that this law would do any good because there's no standard in which to decide whether or not you're a danger to society, and therefore the government needs to take your guns. So it's, I mean, biblically, you have the right to defend yourself, but at the same time, we aren't we don't own guns because we want to look cool. It's because it's a tool for security. That's what it's for.
What about the people who are not using it for security, who are using it to hurt people?
Well, they do, and that's the thing. It's going to be almost an infinite regress because, for example, in China and in Australia, they have massive. Oh, in the UK, you can't own a gun.
Yep.
But you can own a knife. Mm-hmm. And they
That's
have
true.
massive knife crime and massive knife murder.
Yeah. So then they regulate the size of the knife that you can carry with you or buy.
Right. And if I've been
what if I'm a chef and I have to use it for work?
You guys know me that know me. I was taught ever since I was small martial arts, specifically Filipino martial arts, which is a blade culture. So I know how to devastate people with a small blade. Mm-hmm. You can actually kill someone with a very small blade.
Right.
So it's not the implement, it's not the tool, it's the person.
Yeah.
So I get the Democrats trying to say, well, we got to figure out how to know whether a person's a danger or not, because I want to know too. But at the same time, I believe that if there's no standard, you have no standing to push a policy that will eventually become a law that guys with guns are going to come take your guns because that becomes a bloodbath.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is not loving your neighbor, right? This is actually wanting your neighbor to get shot by the cops. That's what this is about. For a woman, do you feel like a firearm helps you in your security?
Well, absolutely, because women are not as strong biologically as men are. I mean, a weaker man is probably still stronger than I am. Mm-hmm. So if someone came at me with adrenaline and wanting to harm me, then I would need an advantage over him to protect myself.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, I would be, put at more risk without that advantage.
Yeah. I mean, for decades, firearms have been called the great equalizer for women. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that to be true. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a minister. If I'm gone a lot and you're here with the 4 kids, I would want you to have a firearm, especially from the videos I've seen people breaking into homes. It's not just one person, it's multiple people, and they're armed with firearms. So I get it when people don't like gunfights.
Oh yeah,
but
no one wants that.
No, nobody wants that. But we live in a world where sin abounds.
Yeah, that's true.
So grace should abound for the innocent first, and then to the criminal. Now, what does that mean biblically? I believe it means, if a criminal, comes in and you shoot them and they don't die, I think we should have mercy.
Yeah.
I mean, if they die, they made their choice. But if they're alive and the police come, I would want, as a Christian, that them to receive full recovery so that they can repent and they can change. Maybe they'll find the Lord.
Yeah.
I would love that. So this is on, we don't agree with the Democrats on gun confiscation.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So that's 6 for 6 on the Republican side that Donald Trump is heading. And we have one more, and this one is very important to me as a Christian. This is to protect religious freedom. It says, Catholic and other religious businesses may opt out of providing services in violation of their faith. Catholic slash Christian beliefs do not qualify judicial nominees. All right. So what this means is, say, if I'm a Christian and I have a bakery, and this happened, and a same-sex couple comes in, and they want me to bake a cake celebrating their same-sex union,
This
which
sounds
is legal,
familiar.
which is legal. But because of my religious beliefs, I would say no. And I would point them to a friend maybe that
Yeah.
would do that. Right? According to this, it's protecting that right to say no. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we say all the time, would that require us to marry same-sex couples? Yeah, or would that be legally discriminating against them? You know?
Right, right. I mean, we would welcome any same-sex couple that wants to come and worship. And the same with the transgender person. They won't feel that there's a lack of kindness, but they will hear the truth about what the Bible says about same-sex marriage, which I don't think is marriage at all, but that's an issue for another day. But we need to protect the religious rights of everyone.
Yeah.
You know, the second part to this, if you're a Catholic or a Christian, it shouldn't affect whether or not you get, elected or chosen for being in the judiciary, right? Because it shouldn't matter what your religion
You
is.
shouldn't discriminate against any religion. So what about a Muslim person who doesn't want to officiate a same-sex marriage or wants to become a judge?
Well, they shouldn't be able. They should have the right to say no,
Right.
because that's their religious belief. If we in America uphold religious freedom, then it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
What seems to be happening here is Christians are the ones being persecuted, being, treated as second-class citizens.
Now, does this stance here, is it literally prohibiting so this is protect religious freedom for Catholics and Christians.
Yes.
But the Democrat side would not want to protect Catholic and Christian religious freedom?
Yeah.
Okay. What about Muslim freedom?
They would protect that, so there's a double standard.
Oh.
Right? And I
Okay.
faced this before. I faced this. We had a college ministry at a local college, a very high class one, pretty much the same level as an Ivy League school. And we've had Hindus come to Christ and a Muslim girl that wanted to be a Christian. And so I got banned from campus. Why? Because they said I violated their policy for proselytization. But I wasn't doing that. I was just having service on Sundays, reading Bible verses, singing songs, and eating pizza and talking.
Yep.
And they love Jesus. They felt the presence of God. So normally, if you experience Jesus, you would want to be a Christian. And what they said is that I violated the rules. Now, if a Christian wanted to become a Muslim, that's no problem there. So there is a huge double standard in the world. So that's what's happening here. It seems that, the Democrats, they don't want God in their party. In fact, they took any mention of God out of the DNC, their convention. That's just, it tells me a lot. Especially when you have a mobile abortion van, a baby killing van.
Yeah.
Right outside, you could get an abortion for free, chemical abortion with a pill.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I would agree with you. I mean, obviously, we want religious freedom. If we, as Christians and Catholics, don't have religious freedom, then that would endanger all other religious freedom, I
Yes,
think.
It would.
I mean, if religious freedom has to be across the board, or else it's not religious freedom, and that's what our country was founded for.
Yes, exactly, exactly. A lot of people don't realize the people that came over from the Mayflower, the Pilgrims, they came over for religious freedom. Now, it was Christians persecuting Christians over there in Europe,
Yeah.
but the idea of religious freedom is fundamental to this country, and I think it's fundamental to a Christian.
Yeah.
Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty or freedom.
Yeah.
And I believe the Christian worldview is the only worldview that allows people of different religion to live in the vicinity of a Christian. I mean, you take, the extremists from every side, you will see theocracies pop up left and right. So we need to protect our religious freedoms, especially for Christians.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a 7 out of 7 for the Republicans in this election. Again, we are not endorsing any one candidate over the other, but what we did today was look at the facts and to see which one's biblical and which one's not. So we are at the end of our podcast, and we have a friend here. We have our 2-year-old up from his nap.
He needs to go potty.
He needs to go potty. Okay, so you guys, I hope that was informative, and I hope that you enjoyed the podcast. Please go vote, and please vote biblically. All right, you guys? We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.